Oh, welcome, friends. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, holy shit, holy shit. Friends, can you believe it? 24 hours and the situation with Jack and Lilly Sullivan, these two missing toddlers from Nova Scotia. The answers come straight to us from the perpetrators of the crime, disguised and wrapped in sheep's clothing. First of all, we have to take a moment and send up some prayer hands for Jack and Lilly Sullivan in their memory. These poor kids had it so tough over there at that particular house that it's impossible to ignore at this point. And just on the very little details that we've learned, both from the statements from Janie McKenzie, Daniel's mother, who was at the scene of the crime that day, but more importantly, Belinda Gray's statement in regards to a snippet that we're going to talk about. Just a comment. And it really opened up a lot of people's eyes in this circumstance. Now I understand why she said that she fears the worst has happened. You remember way back in the beginning? She's the first one to come out, of course, and Belinda Gray, if you don't know already, is Jack and Lily's biological grandmother, paternal grandmother. Well, she was over on It's a Criming Shame yesterday. I believe that was 17 hours ago, thereabouts. And they had a 5-hour live stream. Now, I've got a bunch of her statements in the back here, word for word, so I don't have to rely on my memory for you, sadly. I got it right here, and we're going to speculate it, and we're going to talk about it in that sense, among other things as well, because, of course, I've got to talk to you all, and I have to acknowledge you, my wonderful audience, Sweet Tea, of course, and SR is here. Susan Bezio, welcome. Slim, good to see you, of course. There's a lot of new faces out there. Bonnie Randall, of course, Karen Jones, wherever you are, loves to stir up all kinds of drama in my live chat. God bless her. Hey, 80 Katie. A lot of people from Ontario and, East Coast in the live chat, and that is good to see as well. Sorry we had to come together like this. Moving on a lighter note, this situation with Jack and Lilly is damn near solving itself in a public fashion. The answers are coming out, and the worst part about it is realizing that the more that you get to know about the people that were looking after Jack and Lilly in that home, in that property on Garlock Road, are compulsive liars, and the worst kind of liars. The statements that they give directly contradict the statements that they all gave previous. All right, it's not people twisting the meanings. It's not this or that. It's, out there from coast to coast, from continent to continent, people on YouTube, on social media, are sticklers for these statements to the point where it's too much. You have to roll it back a little bit because people get off the hook. They overanalyze. And here these people are hiding behind really saying everything to everybody, pandering to whomever they're talking about. And of course, in a situation like this, you're not wrong in giving the people the benefit of the doubt most of all along the way. In this case, most of the time that's surpassed. People have been giving them the benefit of the doubt, but it only takes a matter of, a few questions and a few days and a little bit of time to pass before people start to realize that they're being made to look a fool and being lied to, not just by omission, but straight out lying in a situation where 2 kids magically disappeared. And there's, for the sake of the show, we'll call it allegations of abuse, but it's fairly certain. It's probably the hardest fact in this case right now is what we'll call on the show an allegation of abuse. Now, Belinda Gray got this picture and sourced a picture from the school who were mandated to call Children's Aid Society and report marks on Jack. And that's what spurred the visits from CPS. And I would expect that Malaya, looking at her now, looks more like a battered woman in that sense than anything. God knows what she's battered. I don't necessarily. I completely feel a little. I completely feel different about Malaya at this point of time than I did in the beginning of the case. I'm still disappointed, and things are going to come out that we're going to discover along the way that hopefully brings some light to all of this. Not now, hon. Excuse me. Having a Rockstar energy drink. I'm bopping. Anyway, what was I saying? So Belinda sourced this picture from this school, and that's really the situation that Malaya mentioned on camera of the little times that she has, for the few times that she was speaking in public in that sense. Hold on, please. I apologize, my friends. It's like a restaurant buffet opens up here every time I go live, for crying out loud. Anyway, so hold on. So Belinda Gray, where was I? So the focus of this particular live stream, the crux, if you will, is going to be really around this particular photo and these statements, both by Janie and Belinda. Janie, we'll talk about in a moment, but it's important for you to know where Belinda sourced this photo from. Really being a strong, away from family example of we'll just say allegations. But apparently Belinda's claiming that there's more than one picture. Even in his school photo that's being passed around, there's a mark on his chin in that particular photo. And apparently that was used as an example to Child Protective Services in that sense. But there's also another one with 2 black eyes. And that was the one of concern. And that's such a shame. But it sheds a little bit, it makes the scenario on May 2nd make a little bit more sense. Not that you're looking for this crazy scenario to make sense. But looking back on it now, from the perspective of Malaya, and knowing about Janie McKenzie and Daniel and this plan, oh, you can just sure bet that it was them. All right? And Malaya would have been pressured and forced into following whatever plan they concocted. And the plan and the story is so bad, my friends. It is so bad. We have a scenario here where we have 3 different people reciting and parroting and mimicking a rehearsed story, but they can't keep it straight because they're under extreme pressure, we'll call it, at this point in time, in my opinion, and among other things. I'm not going to take a dig at their intelligence. But you could. But we won't. No, it has more to do with desperation and pressure and a little tidbit. Who was that in my chat saying that a little bit earlier? You guys were watching and following. Of course, there's plenty of spies out there in different live chats monitoring what Daniel's in there talking about at any one time. And I'm collecting. I've got a whole collection of a specific folder with a collection of Daniel's particular comments and live chats. It's unbelievable. It's starting to make a lot more sense what happened. And I've also got the Janie McKenzie. Yesterday in my previous live stream, we were distracted a bit, but we were talking about, I was wondering where that particular clip came from about Daniel always yelling at Jack. Like, that's a typical, usual thing that she admitted to in a public forum. Evidence. All right, so there's all of these ritualistic, we'll call it, abuse scenario in this particular scandal that is going to probably trigger a lot of you out there, so be forewarned. Now, hold on, I want to talk to you guys for a second. Hold on, where's my webcam, damn you? There I am. What's going on, friends? Good day. So, this situation for the RCMP, I've got mixed emotions at this point in time. Part of me believes that they're on top of this, and it like a blind man could figure this one out. It's so easy to see what happened here, and it's a sad story. I'm not laughing because of the situation. I'm laughing because of the we'll call it, for the irony of it all, and how this particular investigation case is developing. And I'm eager to know, and we're going to know after the fact, though, like sometime in the future. There's going to be so many interviews that are going to be worth, sending a FOIA request for and getting a copy of to play on the internet. You're not even going to know what hit you guys. Sweet Tea, you're such a sweetheart, and you're very generous, darling. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that $20 super sticker, my friend. Mwah. So the case really, if they came out and had said nothing, people wouldn't know anything. And they have come out themselves, the family, and people that they wanted to be their spokesman, a.k.a. this Derwood O'Grady, Darren Geddes, who's lied. Or has he just been lied to like the rest of us? Who knows? But he's perpetrating the lies told to them by Daniel and Janie McKenzie, who sadly herself was once a child as well. And at some point along this journey through adulthood, she's developed into such a hard, angry, resentful individual who doesn't even talk nice about children, let alone care for them. She's a hard ass mofo. And there's also a question about her pulling a fast one. Like she's clever and conniving. She's already mixed stories. She's contradicted herself to Belinda Gray privately, allegedly. We'll talk about that. But there's also Belinda, when she was over there, Belinda Gray, when this all happened, the dog, there's talk about a particular dog there, not the one that we all saw on TV, but another canine, like a much larger canine with a much deeper bark and a more fierce animal. Like a dog that isn't the type to be inside in that sense. Like a King Corso or something. Who knows? But they would just be the types of individuals to keep big motherfucking dogs like that. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong. But my fear in all of this is that dog was trained to be as protective as old Janie McKenzie, wants it to be. And you can tell that she probably trained it with the stick. She beat it until it got nasty. The only problem with that is, that would account for her raking over all that fresh gravel. Are we looking at a mauling? Did a dog maul Jack and attack Lilly? And then all of a sudden you had to get rid of a bunch of soil and rake it over again? It'd be hard to get all of the evidence out of that one with a fresh boot print where the single boot print was. I don't know about that. I don't know about that story, but maybe. You have to kind of gauge off of the bullshit that they're coming to you with. These people are not coming to you with anything that resembles the truth, of course. Oh my God, these poor kids. So after I was doing some thinking, I've got to tell you guys, I feel a little bit different after hearing what Belinda Gray was talking about over on It's a Crying Shame about something that I'm usually against, and that's raising money in that sense. In this circumstance, I think it's the right thing because Belinda Gray herself, the only blood relative of these two children who's saying and caring publicly, being their face in this circumstance where nobody else was there to protect them. I think it's probably a great thing that they're trying to get that particular bench. I thought that was a pretty good idea. So I'm pulling back on that. I'm okay with that. So for any future use or reference of you guys, just remember that. Because in circumstances like these, there's always people that love to pass around links. They just look for this spot to share their cash apps and things and convince you of ways out of sympathy that you can help by sending them money. And of course, that's a particular thing that we've come to call out on this channel. But I'm not in this particular situation. I think it's fantastic in that sense, especially with two children who have slipped through the cracks. Now, how did they slip through the cracks? This is part of the conversation that we're going to have here tonight. And this is where Daniel and Janie come in. Let me see here. CBC did an amazing job of the visuals. Oh, do you know what? I'm probably going to... I love to shit talk corporate media and things like that, probably because I'm conditioned and brainwashed a little bit. But in this circumstance, the RCMP is utilizing the CBC to solve the case because public sentiment will be so fucking outraged, they'll come back begging for police protection, because as soon as the public finds out what had happened there, there's no possible way they'll ever show their face in public again. Not that that's necessarily, a reason that you look for or we endorse here. It's not something that we endorse, but it's probably something that I don't know exactly where I'm going or what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to stay clear of insinuating what I truly believe happened in this circumstance. I'm about 90% loaded. You know that little Microsoft bar? I'm about 90% out of 100% loaded. Like the old 14.4 dial-up. Oh, shit. You start to understand the reason why they're lying is going to be a whole new story. This is what really hooks it for my imagination. It keeps me bound to this, because what would possess a person? The answer you probably know, but I'm wanting to know all the details in this scenario, because they've been caught red-handed publicly. And anytime that people in the situation like Daniel and his mom Jackie are in a scenario such as this and say the most absurd things and directly contradict themselves openly, it's only a matter of time. No, it doesn't necessarily make them automatically guilty of anything, but you have to look at it from the perspective of the investigators. My first question to the RCMP is, how could these people possibly be still walking around and not in handcuffs right now? When the people, the parents, or well, in this circumstance, we'll call them the parents, have obviously lied, and you have enough information to warrant keeping them for an extended stay in order to further question them, what could you possibly be waiting for in this situation? Like, we're not walking around throwing and making things up in this circumstance. You don't have to make anything up in this particular story. There's no real need to. Janie is a goddamn walking horror show. She's the worst evil character you could ever imagine, especially from the perspective of a child. I'm so happy that they at least had one another. You know, Jack and Lilly were close because they didn't have anybody else. The only thing that those two really trusted was one another. Mom was all busy with her new man Daniel, who was very demanding because, of course, his mother was very demanding, and he's got her in the trailer out back, making sure everything runs smoothly in the trailer up front, if you know what I mean. I'm going too far off script. Let me read this to you guys. Oh boy. So the RCMP, internet friends, the RCMP, you have to know, it's got to be what the Crown requires. The Crown and the RCMP will probably be working together to come up with a certain equation that fits this particular situation, and when all the criteria is met in that equation, they'll proceed with the situation. But it's really solving itself. There's no question in anybody's mind, especially after last night, the unfortunate events that probably led up to, and the reason for the lying on the end of Janie and Danielle happened to Jack and Lilly. They were victims. And sadly, another statistic. So the question then begins is, who's laying hands on Jack and why? We've already had all of these indicators from Janie admitting in these conversations, that's Daniel's mom, that, all she hears is the kids screaming. Daniel's always yelling, typically yelling at Jack. He typically yells at Jack for letting the chickens out of the coop, doing up the chickens or sorting to the chickens. Yeah, Tammy Burke, A-Balance, I'm on two minds. It's been 2 months and no arrest, but I'm also thinking they could be close. WTF. Listen. They've got 800 and some odd tasks to go through and complete. They have to have them under surveillance at all times. It shouldn't be that difficult. I don't know what they're thinking. It's beyond me as to how when two kids go missing, and the people who told you the scenario, the parents in this circumstance, just release a statement like that and that's it. There's no kids that show up. Obviously something else happened here. They keep hiding behind and talking about how they have to treat this as as foul play based on legislation that dictates so none of this, so there's not an open loose string, by essentially making somebody disappear is a good recipe for getting away with murder in that sense. And people still stick to that to this day, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this situation is blatant in that why are these people, meaning the same people who told the RCMP this story, coming out publicly and talking about the case in a certain way and then contradicting themselves? So they're telling more than one story. It's changing. It's told in different ways to different people, not just little slight things. For example, the filling of the potholes claim by Janie, as odd as that is. She was out there filling potholes. And that story changed to, leveling out and grading the ground because she's putting in this pool, this pool in front of her RV for whatever reason. Something that she pulled out of the dump, no doubt. Victoria's Secret, Janie couldn't even try to hide the resentment in her voice. No, she's all you get from Janie McKenzie is even more putting blame back on Jack and Lilly. What do you think life was like for those two poor children in this circumstance when even behind the kids' back in their worst moments, the person who's there should be the most motherly, protector of them all, is totally a hater of children in the first place. Oh my God, you got to hear it. She's dastardly. She's scary. She's like Gargamel from the Smurfs. Worse, because she's real. She's walking around like a wound up ticking time bomb, and she's about to go off at any point in time, and in the same time telling you that she's a hermit all about her business. She doesn't know what goes on in the trailer in front of her. Bullshit, you don't. She has a very bizarre fixation, and it's probably with her own son. Will the video near the mall of the family show Jack with bruises or black eyes? I doubt it. It'll be a grainy CCTV video just to corroborate his alibi, his story. You don't need all that much in that circumstance. Tammy Burke, but what do we need to lay the charge like WTF? Well, there is a ton here, right? There's a ton. These people are getting away with all of this too much in general. Well, it's extra complicated because there's lies at hand. Now, when there's so much lying at hand, it takes people a lot longer, an undetermined amount of time. In this situation, think of it like this. When they have statements out there in front of the CBC, it's only a matter of time, especially in a circumstance where they're blatantly not lying, because they're both responsible for the cover-up of whatever happened to Jack and Lilly. And we can see it in their physicality, how abusive they are. I'm using that. I probably should find a different word for that, but I don't like that. Roxanne Galloway, A-Balance, I just finished watching a video saying that Malaya got charged with 25 years in prison with no parole, and that Daniel got charged with 15 years for destroying the evidence. Yeah. Well, that was pretty quick. Well, you must have got that from a psychic channel or what there, Roxanne? That's pretty quick. Is that the title? You fucking got me into reading that. What are you going to drop, like some sort of psychic channel reading on me now? You bastard, spam me. Oh. You can only get my hopes up. That'd be pretty close, though. I don't think it's going to be exactly like that. They'll be charged with things and they'll be brought into custody. How? They need something solid to bring them in. Like, how is two kids missing in that circumstance not... Listen, I'm trying not to portray it like this is the Wild West, but it baffles me. I guess we'll eventually know at some point in time. I just hate that feeling of being in limbo, not knowing what it is that's preventing them from cuffing these bastards. It's bad. It's sheer desperation in her face. Poor Janie McKenzie out there in utter denial, and these people are coming out with, hey, it's all about self. We didn't kill Jack and Lilly. And she is so overprotective of Daniel. You can see how wrong the relationship is between an adult son and her mother in this circumstance. It's like Norman's mother in Psycho. Worse than Norman's mother in Psycho, because this one's living and she's fucking violent and drunk. It's like something out of you couldn't have went to Central Casting and fit a better, angry Disney villain in that sense. That's what Janie McKenzie is. It's terrifying because you're constantly looking at it through the lens of these children's eyes. This old lady would have terrified me as a kid. I would have hated this situation, and I don't expect Lilly and Jack were too keen about it either. They probably went through most of their time. They're confused. Always in trouble because they're breaking some sort of ridiculous rule. The first issue that was disturbed you, Monkey Mind, was how quickly the search started. It's like the RCMP are so gullible. It was obvious when Daniel and M did the first interview, it was BS. Right, Monkey? Like looking back at that first interview, now you look at it from a different perspective. You're not in so much, you're not caught up emotionally in that sense. You're looking at it more pragmatically. She was lying in that interview about everything. And it goes to show you, no matter which way she goes about it, they always tell on themselves in that circumstance. They always tell on themselves because they're talking about the key words that they bring up that they're talking around, the talking points. She's talking about the CPS visit or CAS visit. She brought it up. Doesn't matter the reason. Her reason, I mean. I'm not trying to say the reason doesn't matter. I'm saying her reason that she brought up doesn't matter for your mind to determine what probably happened, because she's not telling the truth. Now, they're pushing it. Remember, he's sitting up there in front of the CBC. Oh, I don't want to ruin this missing persons investigation. Missing persons investigation, it's a full-fledged criminal investigation, I would expect. How could it not be? Now, I mean, it's bizarre that they're still walking around in this circumstance. That's what gets me. Yeah, they have to search because it was reported as a missing child. They can't just say, we don't believe you and not search. They have to go through the protocols. So we're talking about two separate things kind of in a singular manner. They're really actually separate. So no matter, even though we know that they lied with calling in the RCMP with these kids walking into the bush and this story's bullshit, they still have to go through the process of closing that out in an appropriate manner in that sense. And at the same time, carry on this secondary investigation, this parallel investigation in that sense, and work together. Now, how could this information not be already known to by the RCMP? What's really developing in all of this, friends, if you're just catching up, is the fact that Belinda came out and stated her source in the pictures of the school and talking about, Jack being a victim of domestic violence, and that she didn't go too much into detail what she suspected from there, but it didn't really matter. So my question is what do you think, and whose hand? It sounds like Daniel and his mother were both quite abusive in that circumstance. They don't spare the rod over there. Rufio Banning. I'm almost certain Daniel is guilty, but only he knows. Janie maybe heard something, but doesn't know much. Her heart knows it's Daniel. Oh, absolutely. You can see it on her face. She's just in denial. Something Daniel did the morning of the search alarmed her. Oh, they're both into it. They're thick as thieves. Mummy and Daniel. Daniel and his mom. Isn't that cute? Dude. Malaya will feel deep sorrow when she's being abused in prison every damn day. Well, this is going to bring up a lot of questions, Jamie Wilson. Like why Malaya couldn't get out of this situation earlier. She only got a car a month before May 2nd. Like not even a month. She just got a car. And was talking about leaving. I could imagine, like, it must have been a fairly intimidating place to be. Like it's got to be very tough to have everybody cooped up in that house, number one. And on top of that, you've got like Mr. fucking Furley, Janie McKenzie in the back, always dropping in like this is a TV sitcom. And she's going on to everybody, how she doesn't hear anything that goes on in the trailer. She doesn't hear nothing. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and her stories just haunt me with how ridiculous they were. These people are identifying the key points, and what made them panic the most is the silence. They all identified just the quietness as an indicator for them to panic and determine and decide that the kids were technically missing. Notice the tense that Jamie even used on CBC. Now, here's one you probably haven't heard anywhere else. I'm not saying that I'm Mr. Intelligent here, but I just thought of it. is when Janie said, when I came down out of the trailer, this is Janie's story, not like it actually happened like this, but when she came down out of the trailer and she said, hey, what's going on, to Malaya, and she said the kids are missing. Well, here we go again. Like, this is you can't find your children. So already when Janie came on the scene, she determined and figured that the kids were actually missing. Like, that's using a tense. Like, actually, you can't find them right now, but, you know, maybe in 48 hours of still not finding them, then they'll be missing, type of thing. At what point do we distinguish missing? My point with all of that is it's certainly not within the first few minutes of everything, where, first of all, you've got no verification that you can't find the kids anywhere. Daniel's gone and out, and that story, by the way, is told several different ways. But my point to this particular version from Janie is the way that she described Malaya saying that the kids are missing, and they've been missing for 20 minutes. Isn't that a little fucking bizarre for somebody to have so much information about what the emergency situation is that they're in? Absolutely it is. You never, as a parent, just decide for yourself that your kids were missing and call 911, and you've not even searched one fucking square foot, broad. Like, this whole situation is bullshit. It's nonsense. The way that you portrayed it, she pulled a Chris Watts. Didn't Chris Watts fuck up in his interview in the front porch by screwing up the tents? Well, she screwed up the tents in this circumstance when they're trying to retell this particular story. The more that you scrutinize their statements and claims, the more red flags that you find. My God. One moment, please, friends. So hold your horses here, friends. I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Oh my gosh. Let me see. Got to close some things out here. Just one moment. So, all right. Just speaking about, for a moment, Belinda Gray's appearance last night over on It's a Criming Shame. Belinda Gray's statements. So the paternal grandmother of Jack and Lilly is a central figure in the discussion, offering insights into the case. Let me see. Some of the key statements she made. At timestamp 503, I believe it was. It quote from Belinda is, and I quote, I would love to talk about... Oh, no, not that one. Excuse me. Skip to the next one. Excuse me. Nope. So the inconsistencies in Janie's interview, Belinda was speaking on this topic. Quote, timestamp 45 minutes and 18 seconds. I was on the group chat, and she's referring to the group chat when Janie was all pissed drunk. We're going to go over and take a look at that in a few minutes. She was all pissed drunk. That was released a few days ago. Secret leaked conversations. Quote, I was on the group chat when I heard her speak of what happened that morning, and now seeing the interview. A few things have changed from what her conversation was with me on the phone that day. She stated she was filling in a few potholes. That was all. She never mentioned a kid's pool at all, and that's timestamp 4518. I would think that Belinda Gray called the RCMP and let them know that. That would be an interesting tip number 1156 to come in, and they would have to follow up on that. Query her a bit when they come back and drop by. Second quotation, which is very interesting. Oh, hold on. Let me go to my chat. What do you guys... Hold on. I can't see my chat when I'm doing that. No, Norbeaster. Because they don't have a clear understanding of what's going on, he says he does have rights to Meadow, though, and that's enough to trap her. Yeah, he could be definitely using it as leverage in some sort of intimidation tactic from an outsider's perspective. But when they figure out what's going on, and he still wants to see Meadow, it's going to be a problem, especially as this case progresses and they find out what really happened. It'll be a different topic. He'll be a little too busy to have visitation in prison. Right now, his visitations are supervised. Okay, so that meaning that they're supervised by social workers with Child Protective Services at a third-party location, like a building with a bunch of toys, and they're monitoring things, monitoring your 20-minute or half an hour visit with her. Like, what else are you really doing? You're not actually doing shit, Daniel. You don't deserve to have children in this world, unfortunately. In my opinion. Yeah, do you think so, Rufio Banning? It's almost clear as day in my eyes, but I struggle to put it all together. But everything points to Daniel acting alone, in your opinion. And so there'll be several different charges to hand out here because there's all kinds of people covering up. She's bound to this scenario. She's obviously told this situation the way that she told the CBC to the RCMP. I couldn't see even a blatant liar like herself deviating from her claims that much. So it's important that she gets it down for any further sort of scrutiny, that she can refer back to that, but not only the RCMP can hold that against her and use that against her in a court of law, like it's easily proven to a jury in that circumstance. So my question is, from the perspective of the investigator, how long do you let these people keep lying? The answer probably is until they tell on themselves, until they admit it. But I don't think that they really need to go much further. Like, there's no way that these people's claims can hold up to intense scrutiny in an investigative or in an interview setting. The question must be, is probably from a streamlining perspective of an investigation, we're looking at really a lot of charges for numerous different people here. That's going to take a little bit of time. So you really, before you proceed, you really going to have to want to know and be sure of what happened to those children. If there was her new, if you know, her brother, what's his name, Bruce, Ron, Ralph, whatever the fuck his name is. If he's involved in any of this, you've got to really do details, because they're all conspiring to cover up, you know, one or more than one's crimes. And the deeper that you dig into that crime, there's a lot more that was probably being discovered, I would expect. So just put it on the list, right? I don't know why I'm just hypothesizing as to what could be taking so long, because when 2 kids go missing and nobody has any answers, the only people talking are lying. And they just happen to be the caretakers of Jack and Lilly. Listen, she's a caretaker. She was on that property. Could you imagine that old beast raising Daniel in that sense, teaching Daniel how to be a man? Just a sheer psycho bitch. That's terrifying. No, Miss K, it's not like that. You can't see a school. They didn't release the information or a photo to a grandma. Miss K, you're not understanding. That's why. People in the community talk, and Belinda Gray was involved in the investigation, and that was privileged information from a source in that sense. You can go over to It's a Criming Shame and hear Belinda's statement about her particular source. It's not like the school released that particular information. It's not like you're thinking. Let me bring that up for that. I brought that up. Hold on. Let me just search for that for a second. Where did I find that? So, let me get through this list and then I'll go and search that out. I can't remember. I'll go over and get that clip, but it's going to take me a second. Hold on. I won't do it right now. Never mind. It's around the 45-minute mark, 48-minute mark. Rufio, you believe Malaya wasn't the best mom and that she shouldn't have trusted Daniel so much. Under the surface, he was a ticking time bomb, always having to deal with the kids while she took care of Meadow. So here's another statement that I found interesting. Let me pop this up. Another image, an image file. So, and I'm showing this as an example. I got this from Justin's. So here's Daniel Martell speaking. Oh yeah, did the kids live a good life with Cody? So you can get through this, the claims and the statements, and he's actively participating in live chats. Can you believe this idiot? Listen, pal. First of all, you're speaking poorly about the kids, no matter what you feel about their actual father who was iced out of the situation. It goes to show you just the sort of mind frame that you're in. You have no fucking clue about what it takes to be a good father or a good man. You're an abusive motherfucker, and it shows right here. So there's something that you probably held over the kids on how fantastic of a life that they have there with your chickens and your mom hanging out in the back fucking parking lot while you and your brother live in the trailer. What a fucking tool. You know, Cody hasn't been brought into this because Malaya iced him out through court years ago, and he had nothing to do with the situation or case. Why he keeps bringing it up to make himself look better in this situation is beyond me. The only answer that I have is this guy really is completely lacking self-awareness, and that's due to the fact that he was raised by an old fucking hag like Janie McKenzie, who's an absolute evil psychopathic woman, isolated away from any sort of normalized, loving environment for extended stretches. It's like Guantanamo Bay up in there, bro. And I'm not talking about the good parts of it. I'm talking about the detention center. So you're sarcastically making a quip in somebody else's live chat about the life that how poor the life Jack and Lilly had with Cody, as opposed to what happened with you. This coming from a fucking asshole who certainly doesn't care that these two kids that he wants everybody to pretend that he was looking after most of the time. Bullshit. You have not a fatherly instinct in your bone. You weren't going out of your way to be fathers because there's somebody else's kids that you held this against. You held the fact that their father is somebody else against them. Absolutely. And it shows in just this simple statement. But you're not fucking smart enough to see any of that because you're too desperate, Daniel. You're too desperate for people to believe anything that comes out of your mouth. This dude, watch my language. What did I say, Karen? I don't even remember what I said. Probably nothing. Let me see. Randy McLean, I think that they were angry they were not getting any more support payments from Cody. No, Randy. He was iced out through court years ago, meaning he's not paying any support. He's not involved in the children's lives. There's no custody agreement. Malaya has full custody. And she ran away with Daniel, who thought the grass was greener with this sexy young native girl. He went and knocked her up and left his wife. There's definitely no support money coming in from Cody ever, right? Rufio, you're telling me Daniel knows that he's in deep doo-doo? Oh, yeah. He doesn't care, though. Doesn't seem to. Know that I didn't realize how guilty this mofo is in the circumstance. No wonder he sounds like a complete fucking arse on the CBC. In that interview, think about the questions and the things that you were talking about. The most important topic to you that particular day was rehashing a story that is so fucking bad, it makes you look like a complete imbecile when you try to recall, for example, what you had for breakfast that morning. Okay? You could go on for ages just talking about a bowl of cereal. But you don't go on talking about anything. We know why. You want people to believe this ridiculous story. And did you notice that Janie's story is exactly the same as Malaya's, with them drifting in and out of sleep? Like, are these guys hooked up to some sort of MK Ultra technology in the sky and it's making them fucking crazy, like a concussion without, being actually hit? Somebody's got some sort of dialed-in microwave weapon on these people, making them this dumb. You guys just need to put your devices down. Go touch some grass. These guys are fucking off their rockers. They're all telling you that for the entire morning, I'm not talking about one story, all of their stories is identical. Meaning, from the investigative standpoint, it seems rehearsed. The story would be. They rehearsed this ahead of time, but the problem is, friends, they don't have separate roles. They all rehearsed the story for the same goddamn role. So they all recited the exact same thing. You guys can't have all done the exact same thing in the exact same order. Right? That's not what we mean by the same story. Oh, shit. So what I mean by the exact same thing, they're all drifting in and out of sleep from like this early time in the morning from 6:18 right till 10 a.m. Like, do these people not fucking do anything? Oh, I'm pretty sure that even when you have nothing to do, you don't lounge around in bed all fucking day. That's what they're doing. Well, the kids just waddled away. They want you to believe that God knows what. Never happened like that. Never happened. And that's such a horrible 1920s type story in that circumstance. Like, heaven's sakes, you better off to blame it on Bigfoot, bro. They were all dozing off to the point where people were assuming that they're all drug addicts. No, I don't think that's it. It's just straight fucking lies, man. It's not lies. It's just they rehearsed the exact same lines on everybody. So you're telling me Malaya and Daniel, none of them want to be accountable because they were sleeping and they were in and out. Like, remember Malaya in the interviews talking about how in and out of sleep she was, and she could hear the kids outside, but there's not the type of person to not be outside watching the kids. She's in that moment still worried about how it is that she's perceived rather than, communicating an actual emergency. These people are concerned about how they're being perceived in that moment. That should tell you everything you need to know. Most of you are on that wavelength. So Daniel says that he doesn't know. He doesn't know because he was in and out of sleep, and he's this way and he's that, and it's the exact same thing that Malaya said in his interview earlier on. Now Janie's coming out, and she's telling you that she heard the children. She never seen the children. She always in her measurement and she always hears these kids yelling. It's all she hears around there. That's actually came out of her mouth in the CBC interview. You on the CBC complained to the world about the 2 children who were missing. Holy shit. That a fucking jury of 12 would probably give you life for that, bro. Absolutely. For me in the jury, I'm like, fuck this bitch. I know she's guilty already. But of course, it's a little bit more technical than that. Not just that easy, is it? So what complicates things in a situation like this from the legal perspective, and I'm just talking to you as a layman's, but is when they've come and lied to you, you have to proceed with proving the lie. And it shouldn't be that difficult. But all of that goes out the window when they find a body. So there's a bunch of different things going on in the same time. Not that it's necessary to proceed, but we're in that time frame where all of this is still new and fresh, as opposed to looking back years from now. Okay, so they have to do their job every day and work through the tip lines, and they're well ahead of all of this. It's just that we're impatient. Patience is your friend. Now, this damn case is solving itself. The more these people talk and face a little bit of scrutiny publicly, the more that comes out about the actual reality of the situation. Now, Belinda could have stated all of this information. Actually, Belinda just got that information a couple days ago, previous to this interview, by the way. Maybe we'll go and focus on that a little bit later. I just thought I'd mention that. Not that because people are questioning the authenticity of the picture and why would this school give them. No, it's just you people out there jumping to conclusions on how she sourced it. It's as close to checking out as you could possibly get. And I believe her. I absolutely believe her in this circumstance, because that's a huge bomb, especially days after this interview aired out there for the world to see, and it was a goddamn disaster. Joniel, Belinda's not making excuses for Cody. Enough said. Belinda probably blames herself for Cody's issues as well. Well, here's the difference. She knows how to represent herself in an honest manner. Like, you can see, you can feel her honesty in that sense. She's not defensive and combative and overly concerned about what would otherwise be the truth. People are coming at her with the truth, and Janie McKenzie is triggered AF. That's why she demanded that the CBC comes over there and allows Janie to sort out any of the accusations online by taking people out there, including the CBC. She's probably sitting there blaming the CBC for how bad they look. Maybe she didn't like the edits. It doesn't matter. It's what you said. CB Canada, AB, Janie planned this well. She's the only heard the kid. Maybe she's a serial killer. Since she only heard the kids, if something comes out that they never made it home on Thursday, then she can say she was mistaken but heard a noise. Oh yeah, she's left it open. Like, you can't verify that the kids were out there. She refuses to even acknowledge that. She wants to tell you. She wants you to believe that she saw and verified that the kids were out there because she's got such keen hearing. But the problem is that she's told the story several different ways. All right, and not just in slight ways that aren't going to pass the test. Like a way that the investigators will have a problem with. Why? Who's she covering up for? Herself? Daniel? Both of them? In this situation, if you can't find those kids within an hour and a half, and there's no reasonable explanation for what went on, you need to get a team out to the landfill site. Like Lilly Simon situation. Remember how fiercely people fought over the situation with Quentin Simon? In that, just because the FBI team was out there searching in the garbage, there is still like a huge divide in whether or not people really considered that an indicator to them whether or not detectives or investigators really thought, or if it was just protocol. Okay, because the HR at the police department would say it was just protocol in this situation. There's nothing really just to deflect away from any further questioning in that. But looking back now, and you see the Lilly Simon interview in these situations, they had that information early on in those cameras. They knew it all along. Okay. So you're going to see and be surprised what investigators know and when they know it far beyond the point. And not everybody is on the level. They're on a need-to-know basis in these circumstances. Fuck, we can see it. We can see how suspect these people are. We can see that they're lying. And to investigators in there on the inside that know and realize and understand and heard the lies, it's got to put things in perspective, and they would kick it up a gear, but at least they're going in the right direction. It's just going about letting enough time pass to let these people really catch themselves up, because this isn't something that they're going to be able to live with forever. They're already finding coming forward with all of these complaints about how they're being victimized because of the public suspicions of them. Okay, that's what Janie wanted to talk about with the CBC. Now, you think that you didn't want any further attention. Why would you call in a major news network to have an interview in your backyard? And then you turn around and have a Barbra Streisand moment, honey? Jesus. Isn't that kind of ironic in this circumstance, I guess? I think so. You don't want attention, you're a hermit, but you had to call out the CBC to make that heard? No, you have a real need for the public to pick up on the bullshit that you're laying down, hoping that people, no matter what, believe you. And usually that's a pretty good bet. Like, usually you can really say anything and you can get a bunch of people to be believing you. But in this circumstance, ain't nobody believing this Janie McKenzie. I'm surprised. There's nobody out there that this is how bad these stories and claims are. It's that obvious. Honey, you're lying. So what happens next, guys? What happens when the suspect just lies blatantly with their stories to the police, and the stories complicate and twist and change over a short period of time as if they were not telling the truth? You have to go through the rigmarole of bringing them back in, and God knows you have to do it textbook style. You're going to really be led to a certain degree through the information that you're getting from the the family, or the people, I should rephrase that, the people that were last with Jack and Lilly. I don't know how much more information that you want to dig out of them, but it sure is interesting to me. I don't know about you guys at home. It's interesting as hell to me to know through Belinda that morning of the search, she refused to allow police to search her trailer. She overheard, Belinda was there and overheard that conversation. And the cops straight up told her that we'll just go ahead and get a warrant. And then you got Janie talking about and complaining how the RCMP has already searched her trailer 3 times. You know, think about the level of evil bitch that we're dealing with that completely dismissed and overlooked the fact that this should be, if you're really concerned and caring about the kids, you understand that what's going on around you. She wanted to refuse the officers to search her house, the first person they asked. The only other place in the, for damn near a square mile. It's not too hard to see that there's something suspect going on here. Even for the gumshoe rookie police officers, they would know bullshit when they saw it in the circumstance. Everybody's concerned for those particular children. And they searched hard, but there's a big gap in what went on after Jack and Daniel were spotted on CCTV the day before. And you can't rely on anybody's word that went up on the CBC, and everybody, there can't be anybody out there in TV land that believes these idiots. How is it that this story's titled Jack and Lilly Sullivan, and the only thing that it actually features is how you guys are so troubled by all of the attention that you're getting because of your interviews on the CBC? You got this moron Daniel engaged in all of these different chats trying to promote just like what they do over on It's a Crying Shame. He's got his own flavor of thanking people for not, focusing on the drama, and they're focused on Jack and Lilly in this circumstance, placating to the audience. As soon as Belinda said all of this last night and people started to turn, Daniel got the hell out of that chat. That's what you're telling me, Bonnie? I saw that message. I could just imagine he did. He's going to go to someplace he's respected. That's not going to be very many places. Well, you just wait. Heaven's sakes. Bonnie Randall, it's so unfortunate and sad. The truth is coming. Yes, sadly. There is no way he gets away with it. And I mean, just in 1 or 2 sentences last night, Belinda Gray destroyed any sort of claims by Janie McKenzie. Any sort of claims by Daniel, just in that particular statement. Not about the abuse, about the contradictory statements. And there's more. Hold on. Let me pull this up, my friends. All right. So, second quote was from timestamp 45 minutes and 53 seconds. Belinda Gray, It's a Crying Shames yesterday. The other thing that kind of bothers me is when she was crying. There's a quote from Belinda. She may have been crying because of what was going on. I don't know. I don't know how she was feeling about that, but I do know what I heard the policewoman ask her. And I do know that I heard her say that the kids aren't in there. You have no business. And this is Belinda telling you this, which she's probably putting a nice spin on it. So I heard her say that the kids aren't in there and you have no business. So can you imagine? Like that fucking says I'm guilty as sin to a cop right there. That's like Chris Watts acting funny the day that he reported his wife missing. Weird. Like they're acting really weird. Belinda's doing the same thing here. And I do know that I heard her say that the kids aren't in there. You have no business. And they told her that she was impeding an investigation and that they would have to get a search warrant. So right from the get-go, old Janie McKenzie was trying to impede the investigation. Do you know why? Because she knew the shit that was about to start. That's enough to make you cry. Look at how fucking nuts she is at any other point in time. It's not going to take her much to break out in full hysterics. And she can, convince you of what it was she was crying about after the fact. You're crying for your own hide, honey. So, quote, this is referring to the dog. Seeing the dog in the clip, she's talking about the dog on the CBC that came down out of that particular clip when she was trying to tell everybody how it went down, where she came out and she noticed Malaya holding Meadow on her hip out in the driveway, and she said, "Hey, what's up?" She tells you this story like she's a 10-year-old kid, right? And so I says to Malaya, "What's up?" And Malaya said, "The kids are missing." "Oh yeah? How long?" 20 minutes. Like, that's how it would go down. Don't you think if you were to write that you should change that line to, "We can't find the kids"? If it was happening within 20 minutes, you guys can't write a script to save your lives. Nobody would be able to follow it. You guys are so tweaked out. You guys are scatterbrained in that sense. Seeing the dog in the clip, that's the dog I heard barking. I know right now did not come from that small dog that I saw. That small dog would not have been allowed bark. And I actually was curious as to why that dog didn't bark when the reporter was there, because the dog barked constantly. Yeah, the angry one that they fucking beat with a stick. They probably a racist dog. So lovely Belinda identifies specific discrepancies in Janie's account, such as the shift from filling potholes to raking for a pool, and questions the dog's behavior, and if it's even the same dog, which she recalls as barking constantly, but not during the interview. Her observation about Janie's interaction with the police suggests tension and possible obstruction. Absolutely, there's obstruction going on, and that's your first indicator of it. That day, like, as a responding officer, how are you supposed to take this seriously if the people trying to report the crime don't want you searching? Oh, you didn't think of that part? You wouldn't let them, start from ground zero and search your house. Think about what the responding officers were thinking about when they rolled up on that joint. Trap house. On the dog and Daniel's statements, timestamp 4731, she was going on about her dog to the police. This is the quote. She was going on about her dog to the police. I couldn't make out everything she was saying because she was crying. Oh, really? What a fucking whiny, crying bitch. She's really emotional, isn't she? Why are you so emotional in that moment? She wants everybody to think because if she had just gotten up, if she had just done something, she would have prevented all this from happening. Yeah, no, you're crying because you're desperately scared to get away from this crime, and you, my friend, don't have diamond hands. You got paper hands. You got scared, panic sold. She was going on about her dog to the police. I couldn't make out everything she was saying because she was crying. So I couldn't make out some of the words, but she was saying something about her dog, and I thought it was the same as she didn't want anything happening to her dog. Anything in that moment to distract away from the missing kids, eh? You know what I'm saying? Like, even there in the moment when they just want to do something like get the search started, so we need to start in the same place, which is their home, their environment, the shed, under everything. Yeah, Joe Neal, I like metal. I like a little bit of metal. I like all kinds of music. I don't find myself listening to a lot of music anymore, though. I listen to a lot of stuff to keep my emotions low so I don't do any emotional trading. I'm doing some different tricks for my psyche. That you brought it up. Sorry to distract you, but now back at it. On seeking answers. So, hold on. Daniel told me... Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me repeat this quote. I got sidetracked there with Joe in chat. Good to see you, by the way, Joe. I think I fell in love with metal when I first heard Metallica's one album, way back in the 80s. I used to listen to that thing on my cousin's Pioneer stereo down in his basement, just cranked up, and I thought, fuck, I love this shit. This is hard as fuck. And it is. It still is. That's a great album. But she was going on about her dog to the police. I couldn't make out. So in my opinion, she could have been, who knows what she was crying about. Literally, it doesn't matter. The fact that she's so overly emotional really rhymes a little bit with somebody who's trying to take away from the emergency. Like, if the kids were really missing, shouldn't you be busy looking for them? As opposed to already decided in your mind that they're gone forever and you're so upset just because the gate was open. Well, if the gate was open, they should be found quite quickly. Now, wouldn't you think? No reason to get upset or cry. They got to be around here. They got to be close if they just walked away. But no, you guys called in the RCMP because you knew they were missing, which is a little bit too ahead of the situation. I've been in this situation before. The first thing I asked 911 is, do you have, listen, I can't find my kids. Is there any calls that you got in about an autistic child just wandering loose out there? Every single time, worked out. My poor daughter made me look like a negligent father so many frickin' times. It's some of my biggest learning experiences. And I tell you that I probably could have been better. But my daughter has this, when we first moved to this particular house from where we were, my daughter brought her habits with her. And we never lived near a great big busy highway like this particular road in this city in which I live. My daughter was attracted to running out and playing in the middle of traffic. Can you imagine? Holy shit. And each time a person with a cell phone would call the police right away and pulled off and went and tried to get her. But my daughter was thinking that it's a lot of fun. So those were panicky moments. But it all worked out in that sense. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. But talk about holy shit. So my point to telling you that is that I understand the different levels of being in that situation on the wrong end. Fuck, I don't even want to tell you how many times. Too many times. Like, in fact, I've got a private, a prearranged, the cops here already know my daughter in that sense. It's gotten to that point. But I'm telling you, they didn't know her the first few times. But this all happened, of course, when she was young and didn't know any better. She still doesn't know any better, but she was different back then. But she's autistic in that sense. Nonverbal. But in regards to investigating, the first place that they search every single time is going to be right from the kid's bedroom outwards. And Janie, at the time that people were reporting this, you never quite know what's real and what's not. So I have a tendency to not take it as seriously. Now that it comes from Belinda, an eyewitness there, and she said it publicly, I trust her word at this point in time. Like, I mean, picture that moment, my friends. Doesn't that really, another situation that really sums up the overall circumstance? She's overlooking the emergency because she doesn't want the police looking in her 30-foot RV. Not saying that there's anything in there, but it's an example of the priorities of the people who are reporting the emergencies. And it's completely normal to them. That's normal to you. No, how much do you care about your kids if you won't let us search your particular residence? Every time that has to look so suspicious to police that it has to be their first real issue in this circumstance, and an indicator that things aren't what they seem to be. You're right, David. You think there's so much nitpicking on so many little innocuous and non-relevant things in this case that the rose-colored glasses seem clear to people. Daniel is guilty, guilty, guilty. They cry. Look at how overly emotional they were on day one. They probably already been... I really want to know what that confrontation was at the end of the driveway. And now I'm not surprised at all that Janie and this Cheryl gal were in a tussle. So there is your example around there that physical violence is something that's just a finger snap away at any moment in time. Oh, Layla, that's not mature of me to admit. I'm not admitting any wrongdoing. I wasn't doing anything wrong at the time. It's just something that happened. It happened to me 3 times in one day, for crying out loud. I didn't have to call 911 every single time, but like with special needs, there's kids they refer to as bolters in that sense, okay? And for a brief period in my daughter's upbringing, you could consider her to be a bolter, especially in a new environment. I didn't have a fenced-in yard. Like usually she'd bolt out and start playing in the backyard or down on the beach or things like that. But she would sneak out purposely behind my back because how overprotective I am in that sense. That's all. But it all worked out. Like it could have went completely wrong. So the learning part of this process, which probably is different than a lot of people who that's not happened to. My point is it's common with children with autism in that sense. What I've learned in that particular process, and these are one of these things where you know when you're in the moment, like when you can't find your children. Like I didn't bail out at any point and just call 911 and said my children disappeared. Do you know what I'm saying? Like these people, like I know my daughter's got to be around here someplace, but I was panicking because I had no fucking idea where she would run to, but in that sense. So the question then is, which way do you go? I'm by myself, so do I go east, west, north, south? And the more that you start that process, the higher your anxiety and panic goes with all of these spots where you think around the house or in the basement or under beds. And it's like, what the fuck? Right? So there's a certain level of panic. And then there's something in that process when you can't find your children, which would be common with every kids, with every situation for parents, that what is the determining factor that made you call 911 in that circumstance? I think about that every time. And it was that limitation of knowing when this situation is out of my own personal control. And I, obviously want to find my child again, no matter how bad I look in that moment, this is beyond my control. Of course you're worried about in the moment, holy shit, was I neglecting my child in that circumstance? Well, no, your kid just took off on you in this sense. Fuck. It worked out. I still feel horrible about it, but yeah, I do kind of blame you, Charity, for doing that, but it was all good. I couldn't hold it against her. She just wanted to get out from, my clutch. Now it's different. I can't get rid of her, but it's okay. Sorry, a bit of a sidetrack there. We are all just one disease, one car accident, and phone call away from entirely different life. Absolutely, Don. Yep. Well, one bad decision away in that circumstance. And I've got a feeling that in Jack and Lily's life, it was a lot different for them because they were being mistreated. You can see it in Daniel Martell's language when he references how bad Jack and Lilly had it with Cody, for example, or there's many other scenarios where he's trying to make it look like he is really the caring individual in all this, and in the same breath putting all this blame. We can see how toxic and unhealthy his statements are about, the overall family structure and dynamic around that home. And that's sad, and you know what's coming. You definitely know. Hold on. What are you sneaking up on me for? You can have some water right now, darling. Have a big drink of water from me. You need more water. So, what the analysis didn't pick up in this quote that was worth mentioning is that what Belinda was really getting at is that she thinks that Janie possibly did a switcheroo with the dog, so that everybody was thinking that her dog isn't this big, angry, fucking nasty thing. And I wonder if she's really onto something there. I wonder if there's a lot more to this than we realize. Not just a switcheroo, but she really wanted to, she has another angry motherfucking dog out there. You could get rid of that dog right away to a different family member, no problem. We haven't heard from Earl. I don't know. But it sounds like Belinda is highly suspicious that the dog that we all saw is not the dog that was there that particular day, or maybe there's a larger, more angry, vicious dog in the picture that's not being mentioned. And I'll keep it tucked in the back of my mind. So, next quote, timestamp 4805. Daniel told me on that Monday, this is Belinda Gray speaking, I think that was the 18th when I was talking to him, and I said to him, because he was saying that he believes Malaya and her family played a part into this. He said, you notice, now you look at what Daniel's statement's saying, he's being purposefully vague at any point in time, just shedding enough suspicion. Oh, it's probably Malaya. She's had this ulterior motive to get away from me at all times. And then we meet Janie McKenzie, and I'll tell you right now, you know exactly why she bailed that day. There's no fucking way that she wanted to spend another day in that goddamn house of horrors. One, because she probably knows exactly what happened. There's no way that she can live around that environment knowing that you guys fucking killed her kids and you're holding that over her. And not just that, you've just birthed another child to this family of fucking twisted, inbred hillbillies from Nova Scotia. And that's probably a contributing factor as to why she didn't have a problem giving up Meadow, because she's got mixed emotions now. She's an actual victim in all of this. She's both perpetrator and a victim in a lot of people's eyes. You can see, because Malaya is a fairly docile individual, I would expect. All right? She's fairly agreeable. She's the polar opposite of what would otherwise be a confrontational, overly emotional, controlling old biddy like Janie McKenzie, who's in her life regardless. She has no escape from Janie McKenzie at any point in time. You tell me that she didn't want to get the fuck out of there. Oh, it might be all fine for a week, but really think about it. It didn't take us more than watching an 8-minute clip from the CBC to be absolutely horrified. That makes a lot more sense as to why she had to bail in that moment. We only get our information sanitized through the perspective of a guilty individual in all of this circumstance. Could you imagine Malaya living at a place where she knows the person that just fathered her child murdered her other kids and was physically abusing Jack, and it got to a point, because it always does, of escalation? And that's exactly what probably happened here as well. Only in this circumstance, there's 2 missing kids, but there's also 2 prime suspects, 2 abusive perpetrators who could be equally culpable. So bizarre to think of it that way, depending. But the one thing's for sure, they're both guilty of conspiring, collaborating to cover up whatever happened to those two poor children, Jack and Lilly Sullivan. Daniel won't talk to anybody. He's not talking to anybody, Ronnie. 100% AB. It shows who Daniel targets as a partner too. Also shows why he won't talk to Sonny, but bent Charmaine's ears via text for hours. Oh yeah, he targets. Yeah, I somewhat semi noticed that. I don't want to say anything poor about the girls overall over there, but there ain't no way he's talking to a man. There ain't no way that he's out there expressing anything that he brings up to the people that he wants to manipulate. These are strategic conversations. It'd never work over here. We're already wise to the mind control, friend. It doesn't work on us. Like, fuck. The fact that you're out here, Daniel Martell, is another prime example to a jury of 12 people that you're guilty of as sin and need to be out here in order to cover up. And that tells you and us just the types of people that you probably are in all of this. Absolutely textbook psychopaths. Daniel's one because he was raised by one. You can goddamn well see it in that short amount of clip. And just the two statements she said in reference to the kids who were missing from her property. And all she talked about, all Daniel talks about, is their bullshit narratives, which all three sound exactly the same. Throw those out. And all you guys can talk about is what you told the RCMP, what you were exactly doing that day. More for your own memory than anybody else's. That's the story that you guys want to stick with, is it? That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Impossible. Not even plausible. Daniel's walking around claiming how he's the protector. You know, he's got this label, this role in the family. I wonder where he gets all of this theory from, this family theory. This cockamamie nonsense. Oh, gosh. If you're allowing, says Rufio, if you're allowing it, you are just as guilty. But whether she knows or was complicit in the children's missing is hard to say. Well, listen. Even by Janie's own admission, it's a frequent, typical thing for Daniel to be yelling at a 4-year-old child, Jack. I don't know what the fuck is going on in that scenario and why she couldn't come together and call the police and leave him in that moment is beyond me. But we'll get to know those answers. Maybe as time passes. You get out of my cupboards, please. I know what you're after. All right. All right. We get on with these quotes. Sorry, I got distracted there. Cut off. Now I lost my train of thought. Now, next quote, 5149. Belinda's quote, I want to know where my grandchildren are. I want to know if somebody hurt them. I want to know if they believe somebody took them. If they believe somebody took them, then outright speak it out. None of these I can't say about this or I can't say about that. Just speak out what you believe. That's right. That goes out to you, Daniel and Janie. Yeah, they're these people who are more focused on themselves, even in front of the camera, that supersedes the desperation that one would think that should naturally come along with the desperation of finding two kids that you should have been loving at that point in time. I don't care if I never knew the kids. It damn near brings a tear to everybody's eye. Not these people. You're not crying for these children. You're crying for yourselves. And there's not a better example than this scenario that we're in right now. In the moment, the heat of the moment, you're desperate to find your kids. It doesn't bring you to tears. You have to go through the whole array, the whole cycle of emotions, my friend. Right? You got to go through the cycle. Because as a caring parent, you're going to never give up. You're going to refuse to believe that your children have been taken, have gone missing, because they were just here a second ago. Where the fuck are they? I can't stop. You can't stop looking. You guys never started. And now you really want to sell this false narrative of these children just wandering off into nowhere, and like it's an actual thing. Like, people, that's not a thing. Nobody uses that as an excuse. Nobody believes that except for these people. And they're in front of the camera trying to convince you about what it was they were doing. And they want that to consume the entire conversation about these little nuances within the overall story. They don't ever want to talk about anything of the actual circumstances leading up, because they're not honest. We're not here to judge them. We're here to judge their honesty. And friends, what do you think? Just how honest are these people, and how honest have they been? How honest could they be if they're more concerned about exactly what people think, an exact placement in there, where they were at that moment, where they were in the moment, in the story that they want you to buy and the RCMP to buy, not the actual scenario. They don't want to answer the usual questions publicly. They don't want to talk to any relevant question. They will not speak to any questions that has to do with their particular story is important to them, because in that process, you've already accepted that the information that they provided in their cover story is accurate. That's why it's important for them to be engaging with the audience and giving you a little clarification here and a snippet there. And even more so, important for them to tell you that that's what they're doing. And then congratulate you on how wonderful of a job you did talking about their particular talking points. All of it's fabricated. Raven's Sun star Janie, I'm sure, did not like Lilly or Jack. No, she didn't like them at all. Or Malaya, it was clear to me when I heard her. Where did that comment go? It was clear when I heard that Janie speak. Absolutely, that came across. All she hears is Jack and Lilly, Lilly yelling at Jack. And that confused her with the usual Daniel yelling at Jack. That's what she came up with. That is going to stick. That's going to be in the long run, in the long view of this case. People are going to remember that, honey. No monkey mind. No, nor would they really take that risk or get involved with any of this circumstance. See, these people are so desperate. They were eager to pawn this and blame this off on people working with the other side that's not here to speak at this moment, and the reservation. You think that they're publicly shopping around, or there's a place to go that you could, other than traffickers or undesirable individuals? No. They're all accessory to a crime after that. There's a crime being committed here, or has been committed here, multiple. And they're ongoing. I can't believe that fucking idiot Daniel gets on the CBC. Title is, I did not kill Jack and Lilly because that machine said I didn't. Oh, fantastic. Thank God I'm not a suspect anymore. Then she goes on to ask him why he thinks that he's not a suspect in this. And his answer was completely detached from reality. What does that tell you? Forget flawed logic. There was no logic. He's detached from reality because logic would tell you, son, that no matter what goes on, you will and always be a suspect until those children are found. In fact, they don't have to find them to proceed. You want everybody to think that you're not a suspect. That's the point on being on the CBC. That's really what that all meant from your perspective. But even the girl in the chair across from you wasn't buying it, son. Big ass fucking smile on your face. I can't wait to... Never mind. I can't wait to celebrate the sort of justice that you're going to get in prison for bringing harm against a child. That's how guilty, or that's how convinced I am of his guilt. I can't wait to see this perp walk. Absolutely, Bonnie Randall. Holy shit. Absolutely, Karen Jones. I will be there with bells on. I'll cover it like nobody's... I'll drive down there. I was thinking about doing that today, but I got to think of my daughter. I got to bring her with me. I got to be a little bit more... Wish I could just jump in my car and go, but I have other things to do at the same time. But we will fix it into the schedule. When the trial starts, absolutely, but we got to get there first. Let me tell you something. Another indicator that you can just feel, and I'm going to pull my hats off to the producers at the CBC for this, is that they know how guilty these people look. They came straight out. They're not even hiding it. They're asking them because they're getting it out early because they know what's coming down the line. You just wait. You just wait, Daniel. There'll be a continuation to these little series. The last one didn't exactly go the way that you wanted it. Absolutely. Lady Lolo, it's both of them now. They're both going down for this. It doesn't matter who physically did it. The fact that they're both actively covering up what happened, there'll be charges for both of them. A multitude. They're both mimicking the exact same story in that sense. You know, it's not Daniel intimidating. Could you think that old bitch Janie McKenzie is going to be intimidated by one of her kids into a situation like this? No. It's going to be the other way around. It's going to be Janie bossing Daniel around because Janie's been conditioning that son of a bitch for his entire life into being this sort of idiot. There's no element of kindness or good guy in this particular family. There's no pleasantness. There's no social grace. It's all just superficial nonsense. Hopefully people will believe. But you scratch below the surface and it all falls apart. Malaya has... The only thing that's working for Malaya is her silence in this circumstance. I almost don't blame her for being silent, especially when she knows what actually happened. And it's just a matter of time before everybody puts the pieces together. We don't need you, Daniel, and what's your name, Janie, out here telling us exactly what happened here. We know what you fucking did. You don't need to correct anybody out here at any point in time. Why would you be correcting complete strangers in a situation where you should be so filled with mystery and emotion and confusion over these missing children that it should be uncontrollable tears coming out of your eyes and genuine? No, you got the CBC over to your house to let people know that you cried on a sawhorse for a particular reason. That's you planting the thought in other people's minds. That's not a clarification. Why is it important that the world knows at any point in time why you're crying? It's because you have no real concept of relating to real human emotions, psycho. Ronnie, someone's going to crack. They already cracked. Fuck, they got it on TV. She cracked with the CBC, one of the most docile CBC interviewers everywhere, and she was coming out of her skin, right, swinging at the fences. Oh, yeah, you believe Janie would crack in a heartbeat if they would take her in? Absolutely. Well, she would have no choice. Could you imagine how difficult it's going to be? It actually might be fun to play good cop, bad cop with her, but kind of sad at the same time because, listen, you ain't got nothing, old lady. You can't sit there in an interview room and tell the detectives every single answer, everything that they want to hear. It doesn't work like that. The good thing is that you're probably, it depends on the investigator. It depends on the detective. I can't wait to find out someday. I'm making that known right now. I'm thinking about it ahead of time so I can tell you guys later that we were talking about it right now. Oh, Bonnie Gale. Yeah, you know how expensive that is? Going via rail, 29 hours. No, I'll just drive down. 16 hours straight down the 401, baby. I'll be in Torino in no time. That'll be a long, boring drive, but I love it. I haven't been into Nova Scotia. I just got pictures of me in Nova Scotia taking a tour of a coal mine with a hard hat on at 16 months old, my friend. Is that... No, not right now. I got all kinds of pictures. That was the first trip my parents brought me on, that they took pictures. Oh, yeah. I haven't been back since. But I've been since the farthest east I've been is Grand Falls, New Brunswick. I built a water tower there. Back in the day. In the 90s. It's been a while since. But I met a good guy there named Damien Vichot. He caught me smoking weed in this pump house. I was like this young electrician apprentice for my dad's company, and there's a snowstorm going on, and I was there doing IO checks in this random little pump station, and it was really old. And I was there, and there shouldn't have been anybody around for miles. And I thought it was safe enough to pull out my single toker and have a little bit of toke, as I had to wait for the guy to come back. I was really just taking up time, and I didn't think there was anybody around for miles. And here this fucking guy was staring at me through the front door, this Damien Michaud, and he opened it up. He didn't speak a lick of English, but he knew what that was. I was so embarrassed. He didn't mind at all. In fact, he went and set me up with an ounce. I was busted. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to admit to that. It was all right. No, it was actually work. I was actually technically on the clock at that point in time. But I didn't get fired. I didn't even tell anybody about it. But it's just interesting how you meet friends. We actually stayed friends after that for quite a while. I was like way back in 1994, 95. Anyway, so also let me get back to these quotes, my friends. I want to know. So we read that one. Belinda's plea for transparency reflects her frustration with the lack of clear answers and her evasive responses from Daniel and others. Her demand for straightforward communication underscores her role as a grieving grandmother seeking closure. Absolutely. This is another, God bless Belinda for being here and in the only one standing up for these kids. That means so much at this point in time. And God is going to bless this one. I was skeptical in the beginning because there's just so many answers. But in this particular situation, and nobody's perfect, and everybody will be looking for fault in the long run within themselves in this situation. But Belinda has been a rock, and she's been the provider of key counter evidence. Well, this can't be true, that can't be true, in the right points, in the right places, at the right times, contradicting the people who were there and the only ones providing the RCMP with their information to go off of. Not yet. Quote, I know she told me that it all clicked when she talked to Darren. She said when she talked to Darren, that is when everything clicked. Well, the only thing that I've heard from Darren is Malaya took these children and Malaya's got them hidden with the First Nations people. That's the only thing I got from Darren, and he believes they're alive. So, that's Belinda referencing Janie's claim that a conversation with Darren clarified things. But she notes that Darren's theory, Malaya hiding the children, is speculative and unverified in that sense. This highlights her skepticism about the narratives being pushed by others. Yeah. So, from this Darren, this son of a bitch is either involved, like we were speculating, like many people out there were thinking. Okay? He's either involved in helping cover things up, and he was expressing to everybody that he's done. He's in too deep. He doesn't want to be aiding and abetting anymore, or helping this family get away with things. Because according to him, he was engaged. The first thing that he told everybody is that the more that he got to know Daniel, the less he thought that he was involved in bringing any harm towards the kids. Is this guy living on some other planet? This guy is the biggest piece of shit bullshitter that I've ever met. You are around this. You saw physical violence. You couldn't put two and two together and realize the source of that particular violence. What does that say about Darren Getty's place in trying to protect children? The blatant signs are there, and you're still protective even more at this point of Daniel? It sounds to me like this guy's probably involved in disposing of the bodies or hiding it at very least. He's Janie's boyfriend. Maybe there's some truth to all of this. A large awareness sign. Yeah, you guys put a large awareness sign about how guilty these motherfuckers are. Like, there's no arguing with how bad this is. Yeah, April, you're thinking he's involved too? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's definitely involved, at least to, speaking out with the two key suspects in their clear attempt in covering up their wrongdoing in this case. These people should be filled with emotion, and they're quite the opposite. They're more worried about their own public image. A reporter indicated that the RCMP is only communicating with one blood relative. I do love how detailed that is. One blood relative. Well, that rules out everybody who's speaking now. They're not a suspect anymore, Daniel. Daniel, you're prime suspect in all of this, because you're the only male in the situation, and there ain't no way that Malaya was intimidating you into any sort of silence. See, it goes the other way around. It's going to be you intimidating Malaya into going along with this bullshit narrative story that you guys all came up with in order to cover up your tracks. Malaya's going to be in enough trouble, but at least for her, she's in a position of being victimized, especially alongside two of you son of a bitches. A video of Malaya shopping at a Walmart was taken and sent to YouTube, a YouTuber who used it to disparage her. Charmaine criticizes this as inappropriate, arguing it doesn't help. Stop using it as an opportunity to virtue signal, please. All right? Stop trying to make it look like you're so worried about all the rights of the fucking guilty parties at this point in time. That's virtue signaling's highly annoying in this circumstance, especially when you're talking about the killers and clicks and views and attention on your channel. Fucking chick is out a space cadet, bro. Fucking idiots. Not as bad as Cher, though. Darren and Daniel, Malaya hiding the children. The rumor. Darren and Daniel claim Malaya hid Jack and Lilly. We don't believe that worth a shit. Listen, after we met Janie, that you can flush that theory right down the toilet. Oh, you mean she did this all on herself? She didn't even say goodbye to Janie? Oh, did she leave a card? There's no possible way that you could meet Janie and not want to run the other direction as fast as possible at any one time. She is a piece of work. She is the scummiest individual I've met in a long time, and she's just dripping with guilt in all of this circumstance. Guilt, and what goes along with guilt? Denial. You can slice that denial. Belinda notes that Janie claimed everything clicked after talking to Darren, who believes Malaya is hiding the children. However, the host and Charmaine dismissed this as implausible, citing Daniel's own statement that he and Malaya woke up together and searched for the children. No, listen. They woke up, gave you the same story from the exact same perspective. They're in and out of sleep for like 6 different hours all that morning. And the kids just slipped away. Then they still turn around at every opportunity and put blame back onto the kids. You could see through the posturing and the conversation in just that brief interview just how much disdain Janie had towards those kids, always disrupting her. Always disrupting her. Could you imagine? You know, Janie has the run of the place, and all of a sudden these rambunctious kids get brought into the situation. Oh, there's going to be all kinds. Daniel doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. There's going to be all kinds of, moments of Janie really disrupting what should be a happy childhood for these 2 children with all kinds of her own demands and needs, right? Can't do this because it's going to interrupt Granny. Too bad Jack didn't learn how to set fire to things yet. Could have set fire to that old RV. Burn that fucking thing down. The rumor, an argument between Daniel and Malaya possibly involving rugs, led to an incident with the children, followed by a cover-up. No, you don't have to even go there. The drugs would have caused the violence that would have been put on to the children. See, there's a cycle. There's an order of operations with all of this. Everybody wants to keep putting blame onto the children for getting into something. Like you're getting into my gummy bears in my cupboard right now. Out of there, young lady. See, my children are still alive. I didn't have to put the beat down. Oh, you want some pretzels? All right. Got a bowl? Okay. That's a capital idea, young lady. Okay. Can you put them back? Good girl. Those are good. Now, yeah, I don't... See... Even when people are out there theorizing, and I don't think they're doing it intentionally, it's just the next step for their minds to go. But isn't that just putting the blame back onto the kids in this circumstance, a best case scenario? Oh, it must be drugs. They're fighting over drugs and those big stash like a pirate's gold chest. It's a fantasy thought. Listen, a drug addict's going to be a lot more possessive of the drugs that they're hooked on for them just to have them randomly, usually, for the kids to get into them. Drug users like their drugs, so they keep them in spots where they're not going to lose them. Okay? They desire and admire the drugs before anything else, so they're not just going to have them hanging around for them to fucking lose. Okay? So what I'm saying here is that theory is really just putting the blame back onto the kids, in which we don't want to do here. We don't need to do that. Yeah, there couldn't possibly is drug use involved, and that was a key contributor to the downfall of their psyches that made them lazy and irritable and every other thing negative that took them away from being parents. Okay? They call them divorce drugs, and it takes you away from any sort of desire for legitimate healthy human interaction and connection. So what's more likely is that the drugs contributed to the environment which led to the violence. And that is what happened in this circumstance. At some point, it's easy to see that the violence and the discipline, we'll call it, escalated to a point that resulted in the deaths of Jack and Lilly, and they had to get rid of that evidence from their property. And that's the actual story that we're theorizing upon. And they're so eager for us to be believing the story that takes up all of the time in a missing child's case and takes up the time and takes it away from Jack and Lilly, the actual victims here, and puts it as a mere selfish move. And it's all about Janie. It's all about Daniel and how innocent they are in killing and any death. That's the main thing here, friends. I'm innocent of killing Jack and Lilly. Well, who said anything about killing Jack and Lilly? I thought this was a missing child's investigation. But we all know that's bunk. There ain't no missing kids. There's just a real secondhand argument out there as to what's actually gone on. There's a movement to have people believe a bunch of false information based off of the story that the kids walked off into the woods never to be seen again. A fantasy thought. We all know kids don't disappear. Something happened. And they're taking up most of their time and trying to seem innocent of something that otherwise should be meaningless if you were innocent in this circumstance. You wouldn't be thinking, if you were actually innocent, like, guys, I'm innocent right now of killing everybody out there who's just been murdered. I'm innocent of that. I know that. I don't have anything to worry about. Why? Because I'm innocent. It wouldn't take up any of my time. Why is all of their psychological energy taken up with trying to be perceived as being seen as innocent? Because they're guilty. That's the answer. All right? If they were innocent in all of this, they wouldn't be fucking worried. They wouldn't be needing to have interviews on the CBC in front of everybody to hopefully have the CBC try to convince people of just how innocent and victimized they are in all of this, when the real victims are Jack and Lilly in all of this. Only a pure psychopath who's guilty of bringing harm towards these children would be putting themselves in a situation like that. An innocent person would not have any reason to even consider having to do that. They would be more concerned with the whereabouts of Jack and Lilly. And everything else can be sorted out in time. It shouldn't be worried because one person thinks a certain way. We're not in that situation. Everybody is suspect of them. Rightfully so. Why? Because we, for the most part, all care about children. Whether they're absolute strangers or whether they're our own. That goes without saying. And that's what it means to protect children at all costs. Ernie Shell, at all costs. Sound like Ernie. Anyway, I'm going on. So I also went over and took the transcript from Clutch Them Pearls, the first interview that Janie did, not the one on the CBC, but there was also a private audio-only interview from a group chat. And guess what, Janie and Daniel? That's also evidence, okay? Why these people would be out here like this is fucking beyond me. You guys are the dumbest son of a bitches. Man, the Miranda rights are going to kick them right in the private parts. This can and will be used against you. Absolutely it will be. Let me see. This is Justin's stream. I like this quote. This is Janie's quote now. Now, this is going to get real confusing because she's bullshitting at every angle. She's not good enough. She's got too much anxiety going on to be confident in what it is that she's saying. So she's really reaching and saying anything. So it can be confusing listening to her quotes because it'll have you thinking that you're mishearing things, okay? Because it's just so counter to her claim previous. It's like she'll say something and say the exact opposite to her statement in the next statement. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? She is so confounded. Quote is 1 hour, 4 minutes, 14 seconds of this particular live stream on Justin's channel. My brother called me at 8:48 and asked me if I wanted to go to town. And you would know that this is a blatant lie. So why is she now introducing this particular individual? Probably because he's involved in covering it up or disposing of bodies. You can feel it now. There's some secondary psychological need to introduce this person. Why? Because you just happened to be in a phone call on the same day that you son of a bitches were trying to cover up this particular crime. It's one thing if you guys came forward with a legitimate statement as to your alibis that particular morning, but that's absolutely so bad of a claim and a story, nobody could possibly ever believe it, guys. My brother called me, and I quote, at 8:48, this is Janie McKenzie talking, and asked me if I wanted to go to town. I said no. I was going back to bed. Talk about Mrs. Motivation there, eh? So I laid back down. I was playing on Facebook. I dozed off. How is it people always want to say that then I dozed off? Do you guys ever remember the moments that you fall asleep? Absolutely not. You remember waking up. The last thing I know, I was listening to something in my earbuds and woke up. Rolling on my earbuds. I dozed off. I'm not sure what exactly time. I didn't look at the clock. My dog woke me up. I heard the kids outside, and I dozed back off again. So she remembers the exact moments that she dozed off 2 consecutive times in between the moments that she heard the kids outside. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? How is it you can remember when you dozed off? That makes absolutely no sense to painting a narrative. That's not going to be good enough because it never has been good enough of an excuse for any detective anywhere. Never. It makes no sense. In fact, those are key pivot points to any sort of conversation in an interrogation setting. But I don't think I've realized that quite yet. I can't wait. Let's see. I'm going to reread this to you without interrupting. My brother called me at 8:48 and asked me if I wanted to go to town. I said no. I was going back to bed. So I laid back down. I was playing on Facebook. I dozed off. I'm not sure what exactly time. You should by now. You should know exactly what time that should have been approximately. But instead, you're pretending that you don't know what time it was after the fact. After all of this information is out and you're putting a story together, you still forget what time it is. Another suspicious an indicator that this is a bullshit lie story. Okay? At this point in time, you should have been able to put a time to this. I was playing on Facebook. I dozed off. I'm not sure what exactly time it was. I didn't look at the clock. Now it's just another excuse that you're giving. It's more important that you're giving an excuse as to why your story sucks. I didn't look at the clock. My dog woke me up. Well, did he wake you up with slippers and tea? I heard the kids outside and then I dozed back off again. This story is so bad. None of it makes sense because it doesn't fit with a plausible scenario for a human. Maybe for an alarm clock would probably keep a memory. My dog woke me up. I heard the kids outside and then I dozed back off again. And the next thing you know, I heard Daniel hollering Jack and Lily's name. Then about maybe 5-10 minutes after, now she's all of a sudden good at time in the same statement. Then about maybe 5-10 minutes after, I heard him. I'm not sure the exact time because I didn't look at the clock. She said that twice in the same statement. Sorry, honey, not buying that. Next quote, she says the same sort of quote, only different. Quote, my brother called me at 8:48 p.m., talked for 2 minutes and 59 seconds. They asked me, who is they? Your brother is they? They asked me if I was going to town. This is when she was all hammered up and drunk, by the way. They asked me if I was going to town. I said no. I said I'm staying home. I'm going back to bed to have a sleep. I went back to bed. It wasn't long after that. I can't tell you how long. I laid there for a little while playing on Facebook. I dozed off. I heard the dog bark. The kids were outside. I heard the kids. And then after that, I didn't hear nothing. So how is it you can hear the kids and then remember hearing nothing afterwards that? You heard the kids and then you heard nothing. So what is it you're saying? So here's another indicator. All three of them say that their moment of panic was when they heard nothing, heard silence. That's not something. Hearing nothing isn't something. Okay? Don't let that little transition fool you people at home. That's them skipping over the details because this is a fabricated story in the first place. You hearing nothing isn't an indicator for you to do anything. It's a way for you to try to get away out of the scenario, out of the story. I laid there for a little while playing on my Facebook. I dozed off. I heard the dog bark. The kids were outside. I heard the kids. And then after that, I didn't hear nothing. Everything just went completely silent. And I don't know how long after that, I heard Daniel yelling for the kids. I figured he was yelling at the kids to get inside, or Jack was letting my chickens out. See, there you go right there. I heard Daniel yelling at the kids. I figured that he was just yelling at the kids to get inside, or that Jack was letting my chickens out again. So it tells you that this is a common scenario for her to be back there just assuming things, which he usually does. He let them out a few times. So I figured Daniel was getting mad at him for that. Why would Daniel be yelling and getting mad at Jack for anything? Especially when you're looking and they're missing at this point in time. No, you guys aren't suspects, are you? You're so detached and clueless from reality that you couldn't even, not right now, Chair, you couldn't even acknowledge the natural state of the investigation that would place you as a suspect no matter what. But it's important for Daniel to come up and claim something that's clearly impossible at this point in time on the CBC, that he's not guilty of killing Jack and Lilly. I'll tell you exactly where the killer lies. Double meaning on that one. Daniel was coming from the dirt road down the wooded hill when Janie was coming up the hill searching, Slim Pickens says. Oh, friends, it's 2.5 hours already. We've got to wrap this up. We're going to have to continue this in a part 2 in the morning. I'll tell you why, because I promised Charity to eat some more pretzels with her. I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys sticking it out tonight. But we're going to continue this because there's more quotes over from Janie at Justin's, and I'd like to go through the timestamps, but it's getting on 3 hours. I don't want to make this too long tonight. It's Saturday. It's 10 p.m. And we're going to go spend some time. It's time together. She's up my arse. I'll get off, honey, just a second. I love you guys. Friends, things are developing in this case. Hopefully the RCMP will give us some updates as to when, in fact, their first trial dates will be. That'll be the next announcement. I can feel it now. First appearances in court Will it be in the third or fourth quarter of 2025? That's the question that I'll leave for you guys to ponder in your minds tonight. Wherever you are tonight, Jack and Lilly Sullivan, we're thinking about you. Good night. Part 2 tomorrow morning, Sunday morning. We'll see you there.